"We need to talk," my inheritance lawyer, Edward Blackwell, said over the phone on a Tuesday morning, his voice carrying the kind of weight that made my stomach drop immediately. "Your sister has submitted a second will. Then a third. Each one leaving everything to her. Each one with forged signatures. Each one submitted under different addresses to different probate courts." I was sitting at my desk at the marketing firm where I work, staring at nothing, trying to process what he'd just said. "I'm sorry, what?" "I need you to come to my office. Today if possible. And I need you to bring any documentation you have from your father's estate. This is serious. This is felony-level fraud." I hung up the phone and sat in absolute silence for what might have been 30 seconds or 30 minutes, I honestly can't remember. My sister, Caroline, had tried to forge my father's will. Not once. Not twice. But at least 3 times. Possibly more. My name is Harrison Mitchell, and I was about to discover that the sibling I'd spent 34 years protecting had been systematically trying to steal my inheritance for years. Let me back up. My father, Richard Mitchell, died 2 years ago at the age of 78. He had a heart attack while gardening in the backyard of his Portland home. The death was sudden. Completely unexpected. One minute he was pruning roses. The next, he was gone. Dad had been a successful commercial real estate developer. By the time he passed, his estate was worth approximately $4.2 million. The breakdown: the house in Portland valued at $1.8 million, investment accounts totaling $1.6 million, rental properties worth $600,000. In his will, which he'd had drafted professionally in 2015 and updated in 2019, Dad left everything equally to me and Caroline. $2.1 million each. It seemed fair. We're both his children. We both loved him. We both deserved to be taken care of. What I didn't know was that Caroline had been desperate for money for years. Caroline is 2 years younger than me. She's always been, let's call it, ambitious. In high school, she was the girl who cut corners on group projects and expected me to cover for her. In college, she changed majors 5 times and dropped out twice. After college, she worked various jobs, none of them lasted more than 18 months. She'd get hired, do okay for a while, then get fired or quit over some perceived injustice. By the time Dad died, Caroline was working as a part-time yoga instructor in Seattle, living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and constantly complaining about money. "Dad should help me more," she'd say at family dinners. "He has plenty. I'm struggling. It's unfair that you got the good genes and the financial stability and I got nothing." The thing is, Dad did help her. He'd paid off her student loans. He'd helped with rent several times. He'd given her cash gifts for her birthday and Christmas. But it was never enough because Caroline had developed a belief that she was owed more. That the universe had treated her unfairly. That everyone else got lucky and she got screwed. I tried to be sympathetic, but it got exhausting fast. When Dad died, I assumed Caroline would be relieved. Grieving, but relieved. The estate would be divided equally. She'd get $2.1 million. That would change her life. She could buy a house, invest wisely, actually build a future. Instead, something shifted in her. And not in a good way. Edward Blackwell was the executor of my father's estate and the lawyer handling the probate. He's an older gentleman, maybe mid-60s, with a reputation for being meticulous and careful. He'd worked with Dad for 20 years on various business deals. When I walked into his office that Tuesday afternoon, Edward looked older than the last time I'd seen him. Tired. Like he'd been carrying something heavy. "Thank you for coming in quickly," he said, closing his office door. "I wanted to discuss this with you before I take it to the authorities, which I will need to do. This is criminal fraud." "How many are there?" I asked. 7 forged wills that we've discovered so far. But I suspect there may be more." I felt the room tilt slightly. 7? Let me walk you through what we found. He pulled up a document on his computer, the legitimate will, the one your father had drafted in 2019 and updated in 2021, leaves everything equally to you and your sister. Equal division. Fair and straightforward. He clicked to the next document. "This is the first forged will we discovered. It was submitted to the Multnomah County Probate Court 6 months after your father's death. It claims to be a handwritten holographic will, dated 2022, leaving everything to Caroline. The signature doesn't match your father's actual signature. It's close, but it's wrong. The handwriting analysis expert I hired said it's almost certainly forged." "She forged Dad's signature?" "Multiple times, across multiple documents. Watch this." He showed me 6 different forged signatures, each slightly different, each attempting to replicate Richard Mitchell's actual signature. "How did she get the courts to even consider these?" I asked. "She didn't, ultimately. But she tried. Each time a forged will was submitted, it was flagged by probate staff because it contradicted a previous will that had already been filed. Also, she used different addresses on each submission. One from a Seattle apartment. One from a Portland address. One from Eugene. She was hoping to confuse the system, to get one approved before anyone noticed the pattern. That's insane. It is. But it's also methodical. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was premeditated. She was actively trying to defraud the estate. Edward pulled up a spreadsheet. Here's the timeline. After the first forged will didn't go through, she tried again 3 months later. Different probate court. Different address. When that didn't work, she tried yet again. Over the course of 18 months, she submitted 7 forged wills from 7 different locations. Why didn't you tell me about the first one? I did try. I called you immediately. But you were out of the country, you were in Berlin for work, remember? You told me to handle it and not worry you with the details. I assumed you trusted me to manage the estate appropriately. He was right. I did tell him that. I'd been swamped with work and honestly wasn't interested in the minutiae of probate law. After the third forged will, I started documenting everything, Edward continued. I contacted a forensic handwriting specialist. I contacted the police. I've been building a case. But I wanted to talk to you first because you're the other beneficiary and you need to understand what's happening. What happens now? I asked. Now we file a police report for fraud. For forgery. For attempted theft by deception. These are felonies. Your sister is facing serious criminal charges. Will I have to testify? Likely yes. And you should understand that she will probably try to contact you. She may try to convince you to recant or minimize what happened. She may try to manipulate you into not pressing charges. That's a common tactic for perpetrators. She's my sister. She's also committing felonies against you. Don't let family relationship cloud your judgment. I told my ex-wife about it that night over the phone. We'd been divorced for 5 years, but we remained on good terms and talked regularly. She knew Caroline. She'd always found her exhausting. Oh my God, she said when I told her. That's absolutely insane. Is she going to jail? Probably. I mean, Edward says it's clear-cut fraud. Good. She's been taking advantage of your family for years. Maybe jail will actually make her deal with her issues. After I hung up, I sat with a bottle of wine and thought about Caroline. Thought about all the years I'd covered for her. All the times I'd made excuses. All the times I'd given her money because she asked and I was too tired to say no. I thought about the fact that after Dad died, I was actually sad. I was grieving. And during that grief, she was committing forgery to try to steal from me. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I called Caroline. Hey, she said, and her voice was normal, casual. Like she wasn't currently under investigation for 7 counts of felony fraud. We need to talk, I said. About what? About the forged wills. There was a very long silence. I don't know what you're talking about, she said finally. Caroline, stop. Edward found them. He's already contacted the police. It's over. You need to get a lawyer. I didn't forge anything. If there are forged wills, someone else must have done it. Someone else forged Dad's signature and tried to use my name. That's not true and you know it. You're going to believe a lawyer over your own sister? Really, Harrison? That's disappointing. I'm going to believe evidence. And forensic handwriting analysis. And the fact that you submitted 7 wills from 7 different addresses. I want to see you. Can we meet? I think we should talk in person about this before you do something you regret. And there it was. The manipulation. The attempt to get me alone so she could try to convince me to drop the charges. No, I said. We're not meeting. You need a lawyer. That's all you need to know from me right now. I hung up and blocked her number. The police investigation took 3 months. They interviewed Caroline formally, with her present. She initially denied everything, then claimed she'd been in financial distress. And wasn't thinking clearly, then tried to blame our father for not giving her enough money during his lifetime. The forensic handwriting expert's report was damning. Not only had Caroline forged the signatures, but she'd done it imperfectly enough that it was obvious to anyone trained in handwriting analysis. The inconsistencies in pressure, angle, and letter formation all pointed to forgery by someone other than Richard Mitchell. The evidence was overwhelming. Caroline was charged with 7 counts of forgery, 7 counts of attempted wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit theft by deception. She eventually took a plea deal. She'd plead guilty to 4 counts of forgery and 1 count of attempted fraud, and the others would be dismissed. She received a suspended sentence, probation, and was ordered to pay restitution. That's it? I said when Edward told me the outcome. She tried to steal $4.2 million and she gets probation? She didn't actually succeed in stealing anything. The forged wills were discovered before they could be executed. She's serving probation time instead of prison time because of that. The fact that she didn't follow through on the actual theft mitigated her sentence. I didn't see Caroline for 2 years after her sentencing. I didn't want to. She'd violated my trust in a way that felt almost unbearable. She'd literally tried to steal everything from me while I was grieving our father. Then, one day, she sent me a letter. Actual physical mail, which was interesting because I'd kept her ability to contact me very limited. The letter said, "Harrison, I owe you an apology. A real one, not the legal kind I made in court. For years, I blamed everyone else for my problems, you, Dad, society, the universe. But the truth is, I made bad choices. And when Dad died, instead of trying to do better, I tried to steal from you. I tried to take what wasn't mine. I tried to convince myself that I deserved it more than you did. I was wrong. About all of it. I'm in a program now, therapy, a financial planning course, anger management. I'm trying to actually deal with my issues instead of blaming other people for them. I know I probably don't deserve your forgiveness. I certainly don't expect it. But I wanted you to know that I recognize what I did was seriously wrong. I stole from our father's estate. I stole from you. I violated your trust. And there's no undoing that. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If you don't, I understand that too. Caroline. I read that letter 3 times. I put it in a drawer. I didn't respond for 6 months. When I finally did respond, it was via email. I told her that I appreciated the letter, but that I wasn't ready for a relationship with her. That maybe someday, with continued therapy and genuine change, we could rebuild something. But not now. Not for a long time. She responded that she understood and that she was committed to doing the work to become someone trustworthy again. It's been 4 years now since the Forged Will discovery. Caroline is still on probation. She's working as a full-time yoga instructor now and living in a modest apartment in Portland. As far as I know, she's actually doing the work. She's staying clean, not getting in trouble, maintaining her therapy. But I haven't forgiven her. Not really. And I'm not sure I ever will. What she did wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a deliberate, calculated scheme to defraud me and steal my inheritance. She did it multiple times, in multiple locations, with forged documents. She only stopped because she got caught. That's not something you just get over because the other person apologizes and goes to therapy. The estate was eventually settled according to my father's legitimate will. I received my $2.1 million. Caroline received hers. She actually used it responsibly, invested it, paid off her debts, built a modest life for herself. In a weird way, I think getting the inheritance actually helped her more than stealing it would have. She had to learn to build a life on her own terms, without the anger and resentment that comes from thinking you're owed something you didn't earn. But our relationship is permanently altered. I see her occasionally at family events, holidays, my mother's birthday, things like that. We're polite. We don't hug. We don't have real conversations. We just exist in the same space and try not to make it awkward for everyone else. Sometimes I wonder if she regrets it. If she lies awake at night thinking about what she tried to do. If she understands how close she came to actually succeeding, and what that would have meant for my life. But I don't really want to know. Because knowing wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't undo what she did. It wouldn't restore the trust that's been broken. What it would do is remind me, again, that the people we love most can hurt us in ways that are almost impossible to recover from. And sometimes, that's a lesson you have to learn the hard way.